And so next up, podcast listeners, we just talked about, of course, this incredible story of the wonderful woke world of Disney, no dwarfs allowed, and then stop hiring white dudes from the United States Air Force, and then CNN, no, we don't want any more Asians in America's schools. This is CNN, right? Just disgusting. Well, we also have this incredible story of Mike Pence. This is an important story, okay? Because Mike Pence, former vice president of the United States, who's now running for president of the United States, good old Mike Pence decided to put himself in front of Tucker Carlson for an interview. And the interview was quite interesting because, as you all know out there in podcast land, Tucker Carlson, who left Fox News and is developing his own brand, kind of already was his own brand, but now developing it in his own account. Tucker Carlson is asking critical questions of all the presidential candidates, and I'm really happy that's happening, ladies and gentlemen. It's so important because I'm pretty sure no other interviewer who is, let's say, semi-friendly to Republican candidates are willing to ask the tough questions. And I really want an interviewer to ask the tough questions of all candidates, including Trump, including DeSantis, the two top candidates, clearly, but all the candidates. So we can finally separate those who are the complete tools. And Tucker Carlson, as you know, does not support the war in Ukraine. He wants us to think more critically about American engagement abroad and America's money going abroad, particularly when the United States has so many issues, civil issues, as well as legal issues. We have criminal issues. I mean, look, so many societal issues, I guess is a better way of putting it. So Carlson just mopped the floor with Pence. And Pence had an opportunity to respond, of course, just like all candidates do when they're interviewed by Carlson. Look, you can call Carlson out if you disagree with him. If you disagree with Tucker Carlson, just like any person who's interviewing you, and the person that's interviewing, like Tucker Carlson, says, I think that the engagement of the United States in the Ukraine is a big mistake, yada, yada, yada. Let's just say that's what you were asked. And you believe, contrary to that, that is to say, you believe that we should be fully engaged in the Ukraine against Russia. If that's what you believe, then defend what you believe. But Pence didn't even bother doing that. And we have a clip on this, ladies and gentlemen. It's about a minute long. It's worth listening to. Here it is. You won't believe it. Here it is.
You are distressed that the Ukrainians don't have enough American tanks. Every city in the United States has become much worse over the past 3 years. Yeah. Drive around. There's not one city that's gotten better in the United States. And it's visible. Our economy has degraded. The suicide rate has jumped. Public filth and disorder and crime have exponentially increased. And yet your concern is that the Ukrainians, a country most people can't find on a map, who've received tens of billions of U.S. tax dollars, don't have enough tanks. I think it's a fair question to ask, like, where's the concern for the United States in that?
Well, it's not my concern. Tucker, I've heard that routine from you before, but that's not my concern. I'm running for president of the United States because I think this country's in a lot of trouble. I think Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. And as president of the United States, we're going to restore law and order in our cities. We're going to secure our border. We're going to get this economy moving again. And we're going to make sure that we have men and women on our courts at every level that will stand for the right to life and defend all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution. Anybody that says that we can't be the leader of the free world and solve our problems at home has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth. We can do both.
So Mike Pence, okay, it was at the end, he came back a little bit and tried to provide an answer. But his answer was, yeah, we can do both. We can solve our problems at home. And at the same time, we can have a full out war with Russia via the Ukraine. And of course, the Ukraine being the U.S. client state. And at the same time, have a Cold War with China. Literally, that's what he's saying. And this is the part of the folks that are the neocons in the conservative movement who are all about getting involved with and being in bed with the deep state to go to war. It's like the endless war. Just like in the novel 1984 by George Orwell, right? There were always endless wars to distract you from how awful things were at home. The endless wars, that keeps you refocused away from societal problems in your own country. And of course, Pence is like, well, we can solve both and so forth, but it's also not my concern, all the stuff that's happening back home. And there's also, I'm not sure if you knew this because you can't see it if you're listening to the podcast, in the video when Tucker Carlson asks Pence the questions, that particular question, Pence is just looking away like he's pissed that he's even being questioned in any way, shape, or form by anyone about his opinion on this. And Pence just looks away and then looks at the audience. He's got like an attitude. And it's really kind of fascinating because he comes off as like a complete idiot and kind of like a douche when you watch him. He really does. And the thing is, as a conservative, I want people in the conservative movement to explain to me why the Ukraine is so important to, I know why it's important to NATO, okay? But why is it so important in the overall scheme of things with the United States of America? Like, what led up to this war? Who caused this war? Why did Russia invade? Why was there a perception of weakness when Biden got in by Russia of America's support of the Ukraine, and then not to mention the Biden family's involvement in the Ukraine? I mean, there's a lot there, okay? And I feel like at least Tucker Carlson's asking the questions, which is, I believe personally, one of the reasons why he was fired. Because I do believe that the deep state doesn't want those questions to be asked. Like, what was the United States doing in the Ukraine very early on? And to what extent, and by the way, trust us, tell us. If there were labs in the Ukraine, remember that? Well, who controlled the labs? Who started the labs? What were the purpose of the labs? What were the Russians really doing? Tell us. Why is it that you, the deep state, think that we're not capable of handling the truth? It's like, you can't handle the truth. We can't tell you what's going on. Oh, no. And so I just thought that was worth listening to because Pence's response was, well, it's not my concern about what's happening in America's cities and how bad our societal problems are. That's not my concern. My concern is what's happening overseas. Just incredible. I think in one fell swoop, he made himself, him being Pence, made himself unqualified and disqualified to be president of the United States.